Good morning. Today is November the 1st, 2021. And today I want to share my thoughts that are long overdue about Dr. Jordan Peterson's 2017 or 2018 book that's called 12 Rules for Life, An Antidote to Chaos. And this was his second book, the first one being Maps of Meaning. But it is his first in the lineup of the 12 rules, so to speak, because he did 12 Rules for Life, and then he did more recently this year, I think he came out with 12 More Rules, which is Beyond Order 12 More Rules. So so I'll be reviewing his first 12 rules. And I know whenever I talk about this book, I always say either 2017 or 18 because I'm not actually sure when he wrote it. I think he may have written it in 2017 and it was published in 2018. I read it in 2018. Just as context, I read it during the Christmas break or during Advent time of 2018, and it was such an impressive book, and I was so moved by it. And by the way, I listened to the book on Audible, and which I must say, it was great because, again, like I always say, it's I always prefer hearing from the author, because then you really understand the intonation and the intent behind what somebody's saying, because sometimes when you read, you don't really get all of those nuances. And to some people who, I've recommended this audiobook so many times to so many people, and many of them, when they listen to it, they don't like Dr. Jordan Peterson's voice. Many of you know that even I'm kind of, I'm very sensitive on voices, and I really like a nice deep bass voice in a man. And so from that standpoint, okay, fine, his voice may not be the best, but I have to say that even like his voice was not an impediment to me listening to that book, because the content was so brilliant, and also the emotion that he puts behind some of the things, especially like in rule number 8, 7 or 8, no 8, rule number 8, the things he says at the end of that audio chapter are like, you can tell that he's almost breaking up in tears, because he really, like, whatever he had written at that time and whatever spirit he had written had really moved him. And so you can tell that he's kind of crying while speaking, and I really appreciate listening to that emotion behind when somebody's speaking. So no matter whether you like Dr. Jordan Peterson's voice or not, I highly recommend the audio version of it. Now, one thing I will say, I think I had to look up I had to look up a dictionary 5 times. Because I don't know if in 2018 maybe my vocabulary was not that great, or whether, and it's improved, thanks to listening to him and people like him who use really complicated yet really deeply appropriate words. But they're simple things, and so for those sort of things, I recommend the paper book, because I struggled, like in rule number 2, he says, there's this direct quote, "We are, after all, low-resolution, kenotic versions of God." And I heard that, and I thought, what does kenotic mean? And I tried to guess the spelling. I put it in the Google thing, canon, C-A-N-O. Cannot, how, like, I didn't know the word. And then finally, when I saw it's kenotic, like kenosis, And then just if I would have just looked at the word, I would have known, oh, it means like some kind of like embodied, tethered to a body. That's what the meaning is. And so of course, when I looked up the word with the correct spelling, then I understood what what it meant. But I needed to sort of do that iterative, like, is it canon, is it this, what is this word? And in that fashion, there were 5 such words in that audiobook that I had to figure out. And I'm not particularly uneducated. I do have an MBA in finance, so so I used to not be much about like words and all that, more about numbers. I still kind of am. I think I prefer numbers and charts and things to words, but I do love words too, especially very appropriate, very precise words. And I really enjoy words from a standpoint of their root meaning and where words come from. Because I think if you look up like the root of any word, you really kind of understand the depth behind that, and I think that's really powerful. Anyways, so that's just the prodroma, the background, or the preamble to his 12 Rules for Life. I was so moved by it that I decided that this book, it did not just deserve a listening, and it deserved a year to practice, because this book is really like it's like a how-to manual for your life, seriously. And at the time, I had left my operations director job at a university, and I was kind of pretty senior in my career at that point. What was I, 40 maybe? Early 40? No, I was about 39, 40. Anyways, but so I left my my career, and I was trying to get my prerequisites done to do my doctoral to become a psychologist. And there was it was taking forever, first of all, to even get my act together. I do have 3 children, and I had a full-on career at the time. I had attempted to start a doctoral once before in 2014, when I worked as a senior manager of data analytics and reporting at VMware. And that, I couldn't do it. I just dropped the PhD in the first quarter, because there was just too much going on, and personally too a lot going on. My father-in-law had passed away in India, and my husband had gone there to take care of things, and so it was like me in this position in corporate America with 3 kids. And even though I had really, really incredible support team, babysitter, my evening helper, Alicia, shout out to you. She's awesome. She's really awesome, lifesaver. Even though I had all this support, right, it was really hard for me to get everything done. And anyway, so that's the flux I was in that 2018, 2019, going on 2019 period, where I said, all right, I'm going to quit my job, and I'm just going to focus on get this shit done. So I decided it needed 2019, the whole year. And so I practiced each rule for a month. Rule number 1, stand up straight with your shoulders back. Now, I wouldn't say my posture was exactly a poor posture, but I only noticed during that time, because I practiced it exclusively, all the time, stand up straight with your shoulders back, for entire month of January 2019. And you may say, really, you need to just do that for a month? Actually, yeah, because sometimes it takes a while to form a habit, and that is not all that his rule is about. So it starts off with talking about, the book starts off, not the book doesn't, the rule 1 starts off talking about the neurochemistry of success, and how lobsters, when they win, a winning lobster, how a winning lobster stands versus how a defeated lobster like hunches over. And he makes the point beautifully, even with a little bit of his humor, which is a kind of very unique brand of humor, I gotta say. He makes the point that how you act, how you and there's an experiment of this, a psych experiment, where like if you make your facial muscles go like this, then you will report feeling better. And so because we are embodied creations, like how we act sometimes is how we begin to feel. And he also draws the connection out between serotonin production and our posture, and the fact that and another brilliant thing, which is if you are already you already have enough, you are not at the you're not bottom lobster, you're not at the bottom of the hierarchy, of the social hierarchy, but you're still feeling kind of down, it might be because your counter has gone, that counter that keeps track of where you are on that hierarchy, that one may have gone astray. And he talks about very clear mitigation strategies to change that, and one of them, which I have practiced religiously since that time, is to always wake up at the fixed time in the morning. And it doesn't have to be, nobody's saying to wake up at 4 or 5 in the morning, even although I do. What he's saying is to wake up at some socially generally acceptable time in the morning. It doesn't matter almost what time you fall asleep, just always wake up at that time. Another very important actionable tip in that rule number 1 is to start your day with some sort of high protein thing. And I'm not a morning eater, but the thing that I was able to do was I just take a tablespoon of almond butter, and I like the unsalted, nutty, like the unsalted and the not the smooth kind. I like the crunchy one. So I would just do that. I would just take a tablespoon of almond butter as soon as I woke up, like almost take it like medicine, and like just get started. And I cannot tell you how much of a world of a difference it made. From that time, let's see, I completed my prereqs. I did the prereq things that were required to get into the doctoral program. I got into the doctoral program. I finished a year in it at this point, of the solid actual doctoral work, I'd say, not of the prerequisite sort of things that have to be done. But yeah, so and I'm not saying that all this is only from eating a tablespoon of almond butter in the morning, but it does make a world of a difference, especially when if you tend to maybe go off track or stray during the day and your energy gets like randomly wrapped up in other things. Then starting your day at a fixed time every morning, and then having a bit of protein there, in whatever form that works for you, that's a really good idea. Now, the second rule is treat yourself like you are someone you are responsible for helping. And okay, I know this video is going to go public, but many people know this about me. I had struggled with anorexia for a very long time, and a lot of my friends would like compliment me, gee, like you just had a baby and like you're back, this is like, it's wow, like you have such good self-discipline, or you have such good self-control, or good willpower and all that. And on the inside I used to feel like I should make a t-shirt that says, some call it willpower, some call it an eating disorder. So because that's quite literally how I felt on the inside. And and I have to say, this rule number 2, it helped me to understand more of that. Like, why am I punishing myself? Because I was punishing myself for whatever untold, untold, unknown sins of mine. And in rule number 2, he goes into sort of that feeling that we all have existentially, with, from our, where we've come from. We've, after all, come from Adam and Eve, our deep sense of why we think that we are so unworthy of helping them. We'll go out and we'll help other people, but we won't help our own selves, and we won't do what is good for us to do, what is good for ourselves, right? And that was really good. And then at the end of rule number 2, and in every single rule, he gives very actionable steps, I have to say. So in rule number 2, he gives like a checklist of sort of questions. Where are you? Where are you going? What do you need? What would make you feel like you're playing the right game for yourself? That you are not doing things that compromise yourself, but that you're also getting your needs met. Because it shouldn't be a situation where you feel like, oh yeah, I'm all super ethical and all that, but gee, I don't earn squat in this, and yeah, I can't. And then, because then you're just going to be resentful, right? And what do you need in order to feel motivated? And that will change person to person and life situation to life situation, because what motivated me 5 years ago may no longer motivate me. And it's important to know myself as a friend, as somebody I'm really taking care of. Because if say I'm engaged in a profession that say that doesn't pay me enough, and I feel like, you know what, no, I need like a really beautiful art to be surrounded with, and this is how much it costs me to acquire said art. Then if I'm making tuppence at some job, and I'm like, yeah, you know what, I'm not motivated, and so every day I'm grinding out and doing a shit job, just because I don't feel like it's not meeting that particular need of mine, then I'm not helping myself like someone that I care about. Because the essence of, like, if you care about someone, you're going to want them to advocate for themselves, want them to be true to themselves. Like, are you, does this really satisfy you or not? And what steps are you going to take to get there? And if it's like in conflict with some other, way of being within yourself, like say, gee, you want to have Elon Musk's career, but you don't have his personality, or his he's pretty 16 hours a day plus, or more than that, works more hours than that, and he really knows his shit, right? So are you like that? No. Well, then, be truthful, find where you are and what you can do to make that happen, make that kind of life happen. Anyways, I'm nursing this candy for way too long. It'll pop it in my mouth at some point. Anyways, so that's rule number 2, and it was very helpful to me. Rule number 3, I did speak about this quite a bit on in my video on Friday. But rule number 3, make friends with people who want the best for you, was just life-changing for me. Because I and don't get me wrong, now the friends that I have are like the few really awesome friends who actually care about me, and not just like a bunch of 500 people who I know, who will call me for help, who will call me for advice and then not do shit about the advice I give them. They'll just come, suck up some of my energy, suck up some of my light, and then go away, and I just ended up wasting my time giving my energy to these random people who don't really, they just want a little hit of my light and then they're gone. No. Now I have like really good friends, and that's sort of like not culling really, but that's sort of my getting to a place where I hold back from people who are just like energy vampires. The fact that I've learned to hold back means that I don't put myself really much. I still do sometimes, but I have the ability now to just like not give any more energy, advice, attention, etc. until like people get their thing together and are willing to be reciprocal. So that's rule number 3. Rule number 4 is great. Rule number 4 is treat yourself. That was rule number 2. It was compare yourself to who you were yesterday, not to who someone else is today. And that really speaks to the fact that many times, we'll see where somebody is today, and we'll say like, oh wow, like they're so successful in this and that, but you've not seen their journey. You don't know what they've been through, first of all. Second of all, they're not you, based on like rule number 2, because you have your own things that your own sort of pros, cons, and your own armament that you're working with. You can't really compare yourself, your situation, etc. to somebody else. And another really incredible thing that he talks about in rule number 4 is sort of how our eyes and how the neurochemistry of our eyes, of our fovea, and of our brain are connected. And I have to say, like, now that I've taken a course on what was it, neuropsychology or something like that, neurochemistry? No, neuropsychology. I'm pretty sure that's what the subject was called. I forgot the name of the course, but the content was just brilliant because it taught me so much about how our brain connections are with being embodied, and why it is that like the best way to stay young is to like physically do stuff and physically become fit and active, and not like just do these stupid brain games or whatever. We are very, very embodied beings. And I think my introduction to that was in rule number 4, in Jordan Peterson's rule number 4. So he talks about how our eyes focus on what matters, and we can almost tune out everything else that doesn't matter, and that can be the source of quite a bit of misery. Also, it can be the source of focus and success. But if we find that life is not going according to how we want it to go, then rule number 4, or like sorry, not rule number 4, but where our eyes focus and what we are focused on might actually be what needs to be changed. And he uses that thing about if we are focused on what somebody else is doing today versus where was I yesterday. And I have to say that was a bit hard for me also, because like if I say, gee, where was I yesterday? I was earning a lot more money, I had a prestigious career, this and that. So as opposed to gee, now I'm just a doctoral student and a mother of 3. So you could say like comparing yourself yesterday to today. Well, that's not exactly what he means when he says what he means is like habit-wise and just the exact direct yesterday. For example, suppose you're somebody who has lost your job, or you got laid off or something, and you say, compare myself to who I was yesterday. Shit, yesterday I was killing it, and today I'm jobless. No, the way to think about it is not exactly yesterday. Where were you? Just precisely yesterday. Oh, you weren't waking up on time. You weren't starting your day with a high protein breakfast. You didn't even know that you had a problem yesterday, like the direct yesterday. And then he also talks about like and this, I think he goes more into this in rule number 6, but it's like, you know, he says stand up in the morning when you wake up, like sit on the side of your bed and see like what small thing in your life is humbly crying out for repair. And he says you know, it should be something that you could do. It's something you should do, but it's something that you could do, and it's something that you want to do. Because the thing is this, if it's something that you're like, yeah, I need to do this, but I don't want to do it, you're not going to do it. You know what? Start small, start smaller, and start smaller and smaller and smaller until you get to a thing that you'll actually do. And then ask yourself what reward you want for that. Like for me personally, I could say that I hated, because I don't hate to do dishes anymore, but at the time I hated to do dishes, and I hated doing dishes. And what would happen is precisely what he'd say, you know, one day I'd get like super motivated and be like, all right, I'm gonna do these dishes, fine, then I'll give myself a cup of coffee. But then what would happen is I'd feel so jazzed up that I finished those damn dishes, that then I would be like, you know what, now I'm going to clear the cupboard, and I'm going to organize the pantry. And then the next day I didn't want to do anything. Why is that? Because that side of myself that broke the promise to myself that, oh, you know what, I'll give myself 15 minutes of quiet time, enjoying my coffee. I was not keeping that promise to myself that, you know, I'm going to do that. So that side of me that was feeling betrayed, so to speak, like, you know, what the fuck, you promised me that coffee, you said you'd sit down and give yourself, you know, 15 minutes of quiet time before the whole household woke up, but then you went off and you did something else, and then the whole household woke up, and there you go, you interrupted. Damn it, screw it, you know, we don't want to do dishes anymore. Like, it's almost like a golem talking thing, like, we don't want to do dishes, now do we? But now I don't, I do that, you know, I reward myself, I keep the promises to myself to the extent possible, and that helps me greatly. That may be selfish, but you know, screw it, it works for me. So yeah, it works for me. Rule number 5, I will not go into much detail about. It is rule number 5. It's about children, and I have 3 of them. And he says, don't let your children do anything that makes you dislike them. And you know, thank God, knock on wood. Yeah, knock on wood is all I'll say about that rule. But what he really goes into in that one about like people who are not very nice to their children, and why, you know, because like they allow their children to get away with all kinds of shit, right? Bad behavior, and like, you know, not how you say, like not just taking a moment to just like, you know, stop your kid right there in his tracks, in his or her tracks, and say, no, you know what, we're gonna talk about this later on when we get home. And clearly you can tell from my body language I'm not shy of doing this. I'll pull the kid aside, and I do this on field trips too, like with other people's kids. Like there was this boy who was like sitting upside down in my car one time on a field trip, and I was like, dude, stop, I'm pulling over now and I'm calling your class teacher. And he got his shit together real fast. That kid left the school. Part of me is like, thank God. But you know, so proven point that really showed me what rule number 5, what Dr. Jordan Peterson was talking about in that. Because, do I like that kid who behaves so poorly? Did his parents take the time to tell him, dude, when you sit in the car, you need to sit down properly and behave yourself, act civilized? Maybe not. Maybe his parents didn't tell him that. But anyways, so rule number 5, I really appreciated rule number 5 as a mother. Rule number 6, and I'm already home, but I will see if I can get away with talking about rule number 6, and then I'll make a part 2 for the other 6 rules. All right, rule number 6 is get your house in perfect order before you criticize the world. And that one is, the famous or infamous or the notorious rule in which, like, people say that, there's even a meme about it, clean up your room, and whatever. And fortunately for me, I had KonMari'd my home and my life before I read 12 Rules for Life. But the rule is much deeper than that. It really talks about cleaning up your own life, your own room, your own space, your own psychological space before you go off and trying to change the world. And I think that is just so crucial, and something that we all really need to do. Because a lot of us and a lot of politicians also will, like, or activist types will go off and, like, protest against this and that and whatever. You go to their house, the house looks like a bloody mess, and they can't even get their own immediate things in order, and they're going about there trying to advocate for the world. And that's not to say that you shouldn't advocate for causes that you care about deeply. But the injunction in that one is that if you are incapable of straightening out your own space, your own, your own immediate environment, then what hubris do you have to go off and try to fix the world? That's rule number 6. I'll make part 2 maybe when I'm driving tomorrow about the other 6 rules. Okay, thank you for listening. I know this was a long one. Take care. Bye.